I see Sherry Bustos back there. Now, if you are in the Quad Cities, you get to vote for 4 women at the top of the ticket. 4! 4, Susana Mendoza as well. Historic. So good to see everyone here today. Another sold-out breakfast. I am super excited for November 8th. It's a historic year, and each of us needs to push even harder. You may have heard some good poll numbers for Hillary, but that does not mean that the fight is over. I was telling folks that I feel like as hard as I'm running right now, and I'm going to get faster and run harder and cover more and more and more of the state, I'm going to be like that Bahama sprinter who dove across the finish line to win gold in Rio. And we're all going to be there together. But what we're doing is making sure that we do our part for a future for our country that is as true to American ideals and values as the hate-filled racist vision of Donald Trump is not. The America that is our vision is an America that values diversity, that rewards hard work, not cheating and stiffing working families and people you do business with like Trump did, an America that invests in its people. You know, I couldn't be here today in front of each and every one of you in Donald Trump, Bruce Rauner, or Mark Kirk's America. I couldn't. I would never have had a shot. Because you see, I didn't come from a wealthy family. We couldn't afford a private school. In fact, this nation invested and saved me when I was a hungry kid on food stamps. When I didn't have food to eat, I was able to eat at school on school lunch and school breakfast. And sometimes, and many of you have heard me tell this story, I ate because I had a high school English teacher who reached into his own public school teacher's pocketbook and fed those of us that he knew weren't going to get to eat dinner that night. You know, I didn't inherit millions from my dad, but I did inherit a sense of duty to my nation, respect for hard work, and a never give up attitude. And I'm here in front of you today because of those Pell Grants and student loans and that never say die attitude, because of the kindness of strangers, because of people who believed that we should be investing in each other. You know, I think that's why we can do better. We can do better than the Republican vision. I was at the convention, and boy, what a huge difference from the Republican hate-filled, fear-mongering vision for America. You know, I can't even imagine a party that says that we should create a litmus test for who could become an American, who can come to this nation, that we would separate people out on the basis of religion, that we would turn our back on kids who are drowning in the Mediterranean Sea, that we would say that it's okay to build a wall to separate us from neighbors. My family has served this nation in uniform going back to the Revolution. We didn't do that, and we didn't bleed for this country generation after generation, like so many of your families, all those military families and all those veterans out there. We didn't do that just so the likes of Donald Trump and Mark Kirk can turn their back on the Constitution that founded this great nation, and I will not let them do it. That's not the only thing Mark Kirk and the Republicans are turning their backs on. They're turning their backs on the future. You know, why are we forcing our kids to graduate from college with back-breaking debt? Why are we forcing the future generation of this nation to be worried about how they're going to pay their bills because they had to sign away decades of their life in order to get a good education, when we should be supporting them in getting good jobs and then allowing them to actually be saving towards their first mortgage as opposed to paying off student loan debt? But Mark Kirk opposes allowing Americans to refinance their student loans. In fact, he calls free community college for deserving students a handout. I'm working to make it free all over the state and across this nation. Mark Kirk and the Republicans support the Ryan Republican budget, which pay for a tax cut for the wealthy by hiking taxes on middle-class families by an average of $2,000 and turn Medicare into a voucher program. I introduced a piece of legislation with Elizabeth Warren called the SAVE Act that would actually close a tax loophole that allows businesses to write off bonus payments to executives who make more than $1 million and take that money and give every person on Social Security and Social Security disability $580. That's the difference in our visions. You know, I half expected Mark Kirk to be here because he's trying so hard to run away from his own record as a Republican. I thought maybe he bought a ticket to this breakfast, which is, you know, you can be sure that he'll do that because he does it every time he's up for an election. And then the rest of the time, he's back to being a reliable Republican vote. After all, he voted for the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy that turned record surpluses into deficits. He put 2 wars on the nation's credit card. In fact, he was tapped by the Bush administration to co-write the Iraq invasion resolution. This is the man who knows so much about national security, who's been wrong on every issue of national security he's ever been involved in, and who, by the way, claims all of this based on his military record, which he lied about at least 10 different times. In fact, he said he was shot at in Kandahar, he was shot at in Bosnia, and he was shot at in Iraq. I've been shot at. It's not the kind of thing you misremember. It's funny because Mark Kirk is all over the place. In fact, you know, he started off by saying that he would support Donald Trump for president if he was elected as the Republican nominee. He even said that he looked forward and was best positioned to be the steady conservative hand advising a Trump administration. And then when I said, you know, this is the same man who called Mexicans rapists and women pigs and dogs, and if you don't denounce him, then you are complicit in his racism, turned around and said, okay, now I won't support Donald Trump. I'm going to write in David Petraeus. So then I pointed out that David Petraeus lost his security clearance when he pled guilty to mishandling of classified documents. So then he said he was going to back Colin Powell, but also said that he couldn't actually vote for Hillary Clinton because she supported the Iran nuclear deal. So then I pointed out that Colin Powell was a vocal supporter of the Iran nuclear deal. So now, as of Tuesday, he's back to writing in Petraeus. Look, and that's your United States Senator. Who Mark Kirk decides or doesn't decide, or maybe he'll just stand there confused, scratching his head on election day on who he's going to write in, I suggest Captain Crunch, since he's committed to military commanders, except that Captain Crunch is not a real captain. If you look at the bars on his uniform on your cereal box, he's actually a lieutenant. So he's lied about his military record. But then again, so has Kirk. So maybe, you know. But look, when Mark Kirk has been sure about his vote is when he's created the most damage. He's voted for every free trade deal under the sun, and Illinois has lost more than 270,000 manufacturing jobs over the course of Mark Kirk's career. He protects loopholes for companies that ship jobs overseas. This isn't an abstraction. It's people's lives. A few months ago, I was in Granite City for the 4th or 5th time, and I sat down with steelworkers and their families whose lives had just been upturned. Because you see, they were laid off. The first of them were laid off 2 days after Christmas. And they were laid off after they'd done everything that they were supposed to do. They worked hard, in some cases for decades. You know, they produced quality steel, and they took pride in the work that they did. But factors outside of their control, specifically those trade policies that Mark Kirk backs, allowed inferior products made in places like China and Korea to be dumped on the worldwide market, put them at a disadvantage. How do you tell someone who's worked hard their entire lives, who's in their 50s, looking towards soon, within a decade, retiring, having a kid that's just trying to get started at University of Illinois, that their work is no longer of value? We can do better. We will do better. We have to do better here in Illinois. And that's why I'm running. Because too many of our neighbors are working harder than ever, but they're still falling behind. Skyrocketing costs make college feel out of reach for too many families. And it's the same for a secure and dignified retirement. We've come so far since the Great Recession. President Obama, as the Senator Durbin said, deserves so much credit, but there is still work to do. You know, here in Illinois, in the heartland, in the prairie of this great nation, we know about hard work. We know about ambition, but we also know about the importance of investing in each other and in our community. We should be investing our kids so that more of them can graduate from our world-class universities and tech schools. In the 19th and 20th century, we built the great machines that farmed the land all across America. We manufactured the equipment that worked the construction sites and the steel that built our cities and roads. We grew the corn and soybean and hogs that fed the nation. And I know about the hogs because my husband was the executive officer out in Kewanee, Illinois, and I've been to many a hog queen celebration, let me tell you. I know about the hogs. Unlike Mark Kirk, who time and again has supported companies that ship jobs overseas, who even went to China, paid for by the Chinese, to tell them, don't buy American bonds because they're not a good bet. I want to invest in us. I don't see a state that has bros with no hose on the south side of Chicago. I don't think we should have a religious test for who can come to this nation. I don't think that it's right for companies who take advantage of the public schools that train their workers and the firefighters that protect their factories and the police forces that provide them securities and the roads that we build to create a profit and then to ship that profit overseas. But I do intend on betting on America, just like those here in Illinois. For the 21st century, we here in Illinois, right here, we can lead the clean energy revolution. We can build the windmills. We can grow the crops to produce the biofuels. We can manufacture the technology for aerospace, just to name a few things that we are perfectly capable of doing and leading the nation in. We here in Illinois have the hardworking people, have the world-class universities, have the manufacturing capability, have the farmers, have the crops to do what we need to do to lead this nation. And let me tell you, we can again shape our nation into the future of America that is opposite of the future that Donald Trump and Mark Kirk and the Republicans seem to be resigned to. So this is what this is about. This is what this is about. Are we a nation that invests in each other or one that says you're on your own? I believe, and Democrats believe, that we are stronger when we are looking out for each other, when we reward hard work, when we make sure that everyone pulls and pays their fair share. We are also stronger and safer when we engage in the world and lead the world as opposed to running away from it. Those are the values that we defend for a very simple reason. We know that lifting one another up doesn't cost nearly as much as leaving fellow Americans behind. And that's why the Democratic Party I know and love is the one that is going to lead us as we get through this election. That's why we're going to win all up and down the ballot in November. And with each and every one of you working hard, sharing that vision, I know we're going to be celebrating on November 9th. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting all of our troops. God bless you. God bless our troops and our veterans. And always, God bless the United States of America. Thank you.